Right. Okay. So, hi there. This is William Painter again on a lovely summer night. It's the 20th of June, or about to be, and or actually it is. And when you see this, it'll be the 21st. In either case, it's the summer solstice, and kind of a special day for the inhabitants of Earth, in that. Well, it's equal days, all that kind of stuff. So, what I'm going to do is I'm going to start off with a tune, and this song is quite a new song. It's was written. I can't think of the fellow's name. I'll see if I can shovel it over to Cheryl for her to add it on in the comments. But it's this guy's name, and it's by the Quarantine Chorus, and the Quarantine Chorus basically is the world at large. And so this is a song about being in quarantine, a song about the things we face and how we face them. And so I thought it just seemed really appropriate. I mean, these are odd times. Oh, right, written by John Mark Nelson and Dan Wilson, and originally performed by John Mark Nelson and the Quarantine Chorale. So I'm gonna do it a major disservice by playing it for you, and then you can go look it up and hear him do it properly on YouTube. Even if the world we know crumbles at our feet, even if it comes to war and riots in the street, even if the government can't save us from ourselves, and we watch the world while it slowly goes to hell, you are the one I want to watch it all burn down with. And you are the one I'd say I love you with my final breath. And you are the one, if I could only have one last wish. When this life's done, we'll share another one after death. Even if we boil away the ice caps and the snow, even if this fragile earth decides we have to go, even if our shining city sink into the mud and there's no one there to save us from the flood, but you are the one I want to watch it all go down with. And you are the one that say I love you with my final breath. And you are the one, if I could only have one last wish. When this life's done, we'll share another one after death. You are the one I want to watch it all burn down with. And you are the one that say you love you with my final breath. And you are the one, if I could only have one last wish. When this life's done, we'll share another one after death. This life's done, we'll share another one after death. That was released in April And you should really go hear the man do it himself properly. Okay, I'm back. The music torture has ceased. So our gospel reading today comes from Matthew 10, verses 24 to 39, and the people at home can read along with me. A disciple is not above the teacher, nor a slave above the master. It is enough for the disciple to be like the teacher, and the slave like the master. If they have called the master of the household Beelzebub, how much more will they malign those of his household? So have no fear of them, for nothing is covered up that will not be uncovered, and nothing secret that will not become known. What I say to you in the dark, tell in the light, and what you hear whispered, proclaim from the housetops. Do not fear those who kill the body, but cannot kill the soul. Rather, fear him who can destroy both soul and body in hell. Are not 2 sparrows sold for a penny? Yet not one of them will fall to the ground apart from your Father. And even the hairs of your head are all counted, so do not be afraid. You are of more value than many sparrows. Everyone, therefore, who acknowledges me before others, I also will acknowledge before my Father in heaven. But whoever denies me before others, I also will deny before my Father in heaven. Do not think that I have come to bring peace to the earth. I have not come to bring peace, but a sword. For I have come to set a man against his father, and a daughter against her mother, and a daughter-in-law against her mother-in-law, and one's foes will be members of one's own household. Whoever loves father or mother more than me is not worthy of me, and whoever loves son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. And whoever does not take up the cross and follow me is not worthy of me. Those who find their life will lose it, and those who lose their life for my sake will find it. Thus endeth the gospel. Now I really quite like that gospel passage. Actually, I like any gospel passage that has fear not, or be not afraid, or don't worry. Because there's so many things in our lives that worry us and that trouble us. And being a follower of Jesus, well, I'm sorry, it's a hard row to hoe, as they say here in Iowa. You're supposed to love your neighbor. You know, I don't even like my neighbors very much. And I'm supposed to follow this guy, and what he's telling me, he's saying, don't be afraid, I got your back. Don't be afraid, I've got your back. And it's like that song, you know, we're going to watch it all burn down. You're the one I want to watch it burn down with. I mean, there are things out of our control, and we need not fear these things if we truly believe, and if we truly follow, and we truly take up the cross. Now, what does that mean for us? You know, you're not going to go out there and grab a cross and start carrying it down the street. That's a bit literal, although I suppose there are some who tend to a literal interpretation. Rather, let me tell you a story. And it's a story about me, because that's the only stories I really know well. When I was a graduate student, doctoral student at the University of Missouri, I got elected to be the president of the History Graduate Students Association, HGSA, I think it was. And it was basically a CV builder, you know how those things are. But one of the things that I was obligated to do, or felt obligated to do, was to be the chancellor of the University of Missouri, to be his teaching assistant. He was a teaching chancellor, and he was a historian. And so he taught freshman history, American history. And he would pick, or we assigned, a graduate student to be his teaching assistant. So he'd go to his office 2 or 3 times a week, attend his lectures, which were tended to be on the more conservative interpretation side. and then you'd manage the exams, and you would teach your own little sections, pretty much however you pleased. And I knew the chancellor. He was a fellow from Texas. He knew several of my father's colleagues, Dr. Haskell Monroe, and I quite liked the job. Nobody else wanted it because they're always too conservative, and you're selling yourself out. But I thought it was kind of fun. Anyway, at university, you have what's called Rush Week. And that's where these fraternities and sororities, Greektown, have these parties that people come and they drink too much, and they engage in relatively risky behavior. They call it fun, and 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 then the fraternities or sororities select. You say, oh, I want to be a member of this one, and if you're lucky and they like you, you get to be in their club. I never understood it really, but okay. At one of these parties at a fraternity house, one of the locals, young African American boy who was too young to be drinking and certainly had no business being over there, attended a party, and he was African American. These are all white fraternities, okay? And anyway, they chased him off, and he climbed up a pole, and they threw beer bottles and beer cans at him, and he fell, and he died. And there was no real repercussions to that. The university kind of turned a blind eye to it. As is the case you have seen recently in many of our institutions. So the Legion of Black Collegiates, which was another organization on campus, made an announcement saying that they were not going to enter a float in the homecoming parade, but instead were going to protest. And they were welcoming all comers to come and protest with them. Well, I really, I wasn't big on homecoming, and I certainly never made a homecoming float. Was never in a homecoming parade. But I thought, we should get on. I'm the president of the History Graduate Student Association. I should be in there with them. I should be standing shoulder to shoulder with them. We should be showing solidarity in this, in this protest. And so I showed up at the Legion of Black Collegiates. They had an old house. It used to be an old residence, but it was an old house. And they said, be there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I was there at 7 o'clock in the morning. And I wasn't feeling my spryest, because usually on Friday night, we spent much of our time at Shakespeare's eating pizza, which was very good, and drinking beer, which was probably too much. So I was not feeling all that alert on a Saturday morning at 7 o'clock, but I was there, by golly. And so I knocked on the door, and they answered the door, and they said, what do you want? And I said, well, I'm here to join you. And they looked at me like I was a banana, So they invited me in, or some version of something not human. They were like, what are you doing here? So they invited me in, and they said, you wait right here. And they went behind a closed door, and I could hear them talking, and voices got raised. And pretty soon, one of them came out, and he said, well, you can march with us, but you have to stay in the middle. You can't be on the edge. And I realized, oh, they think I'm here to cause trouble, get people's attention and so on. And I couldn't be further from the truth. I was here to support them. So I'm like, yeah, sure, man, I'll stay right in the middle. Do you have any water I could have? I'm really thirsty right now. So we gathered at the gathering place, and we marched in this homecoming parade. It was really impressive. It was awesome. It was inspiring. We were these young, bright, intelligent, academic African Americans from all over the place, and they were chanting "No peace, no justice, no peace, no justice," and it was really, it was good. It was good, and so you'd see some silly float with some made up football player kicking the stuffings out of whoever we were playing for homecoming, and then there was us. So right in the middle of all this frivolity was something very serious, and the juxtaposition was inspiring. Well, as I pointed out earlier, I'd never been to really a homecoming parade, and so we're marching and we're chanting and we're marching and we're chanting, and I noticed that I look up ahead, and I notice that right in front, right in front of the history building, was the reviewing stand. Now, I hadn't really thought this through, obviously, but on that reviewing stand were the board of trustees and the president, the chancellor of the university, and other senior academic administrators. And, it was like Mount Olympus there, and reviewing all the floats, And so every float would sort of pause in front of this reviewing stand. And I'm like, oh my gosh, because the chancellor was there. And I was the only white person. I was the only white person, which was disappointing, but also meant it was more than a little difficult for me to blend in. And I mean, if I could have disappeared, I'd have done it. I'd have chosen out because I knew what was going to happen. I knew we were going to stand in front of that reviewing stand. We were going to face those reviewers, all those white folks, and we were going to chant and shake our fists at them. And that was the whole purpose. And then move on. And there was my boss. And in academia, it doesn't take much to bust you out. You have to really sort of lose all sense of integrity in some ways. Not all, but when the boss tells you to come mow his yard, you're just saying yes, sir, and you get over there and you mow your mentor's yard. I never got asked that, but I knew plenty who did. Well, here we were in front of the reviewing stand. And I realized I'm just not going to blend in. I'm just going to do this. I'm just going to suffer this. I'm going to lose my job. I'm going to lose my position. I'm going to be kicked out of this graduate program because that is just the chancellor of the university there that I'm shaking my fist at. And I'm gonna lose everything. I'm gonna lose everything that I've worked for up to this point. It's just gonna be gone. I mean, you don't say, oh well, I'll just get another job in another university doing this. It doesn't work like that. And I had sacrificed a lot to get to that point. Well, we did it. We stood. We shook our fists, our angry little fists. We demanded justice before they could have any peace in front of those white folks on the reviewing stand. And we passed on. I saw Haskell there. He looked right at me, right in the eye. He saw me. He just saw me. And we went on. Well, my regular meeting with him was the following week. I went into his office to discuss what we were going to be doing in class, and I just knew I was going to be candid. You know what? The man never said a word to me. All that fear I had, all that anxiety that I had was for nothing. I was doing what I knew was the right thing to do. Now, someone had told me, oh, and by the way, we're going to stand in front of the chancellor of the university and shake our hands and chant. I might have had second thoughts, but I didn't know that was going to happen. And in this passage, in this gospel, Jesus is trying to tell his followers, look, you stand out there for justice. You stand out there for being, for doing, for chasing this message out of loving your neighbor and loving God. You putting this message out there, people are not going to all welcome you. Bad things could happen to you, but know this. Don't be afraid. We've got your back. Now, I often think about that story. I wasn't carrying a cross. I wasn't being boiled in oil. My life wasn't being threatened. I wasn't being shot at. I wasn't being tased or tear gassed or any of those kinds of things. But I really saw the end of my professional career right before my eyes. And I thought, I can't tell you. I was ready to bolt. I was ready to leg it. I was like, maybe I could just run away. Who's that white boy, man? He's running. He can run fast. But I didn't do it because it wasn't the right thing to do. The right thing to do was stand in solidarity with these African American students. And Haskell saw me, and he never said a word. I think he was kind of proud of me for doing that. Never spoke of it. He never spoke of the matter. Well, I tell you this story because as you read Jeremiah and as you read the New Testament, as you read these communications of Jesus, these words of Jesus to his disciples, you realize that it is not easy to be a Christian. You cannot be silent. When you see a police officer with his neck or a defenseless African American man, you have to speak up. You have to say something. You have to do something. You have to show up. Because that's what justice is about. And Jesus is what justice is all about. And there are those who think that we should all go into a monastery and spend our days in prayer. I'm not one of those people. I think that you spend your time in prayer when you spend your time working for a more just society. So with that in mind, in our quarantine, as 111 cities are burning, well, they were, but they're not anymore. As we look and wonder what is waiting for us on the other side of this pandemic, whether we'll have jobs, whether we'll be able to feed our families, know this: be not afraid. God is here for you. God knows you exist. God looks after these worthless little sparrows, and you're worth more than that. And so, if you end up standing before the reviewing stand and you're chanting, no peace, no justice, be brave. Pick up that cross, carry it, and carry it proudly, because you know that God's got your back on this one. I hope you have a wonderful week. God bless every single one of you. Look up that song because it's really a lot of fun. And I'll see you in 3 weeks. In the meantime, enjoy Cheryl and enjoy Mary. And God bless you all. Cheers.